Welcome to quiz class. Today we have 100 questions on the 1950s. So let's test your knowledge. With question number 1, which city hosted the 1952 Summer Olympic Games in place of Tokyo in 1940? London, Melbourne, or Helsinki? Helsinki. Which 1953 song performed by Big Mama Thornton later became a hit for Elvis Presley? Don't Be Cruel, Hound Dog, or Jailhouse Rock? Hound Dog. Which London music venue opened on May 3, 1951? Queen Elizabeth Hall, Royal Albert Hall, or Royal Festival Hall? Royal Festival Hall. Which fashion designer provided costumes for the 1954 film Sabrina? Chanel, Balenciaga, or Givenchy? Givenchy. Blood tests for what illness were introduced in 1950? Polio, tuberculosis, or cancer? Tuberculosis. Which Dr. Seuss Horton title was published in 1954? Horton Hears a Who, Horton in the Hat, or Horton Hatches the Egg? Horton Hears a Who. Which airplane technology prototype was developed in 1956? In-flight television, flight recorder, or automatic exits? Flight recorder. Which cosmetics company had the popular perfume Hypnotique in the 1950s? Revlon, Estee Lauder, or Max Factor? Max Factor. In which U.S. city was the first Miss America pageant held in 1954? New Orleans, Atlantic City, or Las Vegas? Atlantic City. Which U.S. automobile and wagon manufacturer turned 100 in February 1952? Pontiac, Oldsmobile, or Studebaker? Studebaker. What did the French Sardine Company of California change their name to in 1953? Starkist Foods, Safe Catch, or Wild Planet Foods? Starkist Foods. Which former British Prime Minister was born on October 1st, 1956? Boris Johnson, David Cameron, or Theresa May? Theresa May. Which television sitcom finished airing on May 23, 1958? The Life of Riley, I Love Lucy, or Father Knows Best? The Life of Riley. What issue caused the Australian Labor Party split of 1955? Immigration, communism, or unionism? Communism. Which Which architect designed the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in New York City, completed in 1959? Le Corbusier, Frank Lloyd Wright, or Louis Sullivan? Frank Lloyd Wright. Who was the main star of the 1951 musical film An American in Paris? Fred Astaire, Frank Sinatra, or Gene Kelly? Gene Kelly. Which hotel chain, founded in 1952, was named after a musical? Holiday Inn, Best Western, or St. Regis? Holiday Inn. Who was the first African American and person of color to win a Nobel Peace Prize in 1950? Ralph Abernathy, W.E.B. Du Bois, or Ralph Bunche? Ralph Bunche. Which sci-fi film was released in 1953? First Man into Space, The War of the Worlds, or The Day the Earth Stood Still? The War of the Worlds. Question 20. What caused half of all deaths in the U.S. in the 1950s? Heart disease, lung disease, or kidney disease? Heart disease. Which cocktail was introduced to Hawaii for Matson Company hotels in 1953? The daiquiri, the Singapore Sling, or Mai Tai? Mai Tai. Which comedian wrote and starred in the 1953 film Dance Hall Racket? Ted Ray, Edgar Bergen, or Lenny Bruce? Lenny Bruce. Which automobile manufacturer was not one of Detroit's big three in the 1950s? Chrysler, Stellantis, or General Motors? Stellantis. Who did Frank Sinatra elope with in 1951? Rita Hayworth, Jane Russell, or Ava Gardner? Ava Gardner. Which U.S. senator became the Democrat Senate Minority Leader in January 1953? Lyndon Johnson, John F. Kennedy, or Robert McNamara? Lyndon Johnson. Which baseball player had the most hits for the 1950 to 59 seasons? Reggie Ashburn, Del Ennis, or Mike Schmidt? Richie Ashburn. Which female group was hired by Ray Charles in 1958 to provide backing vocals? The Cherries, the Cookies, or the Kitties? The Cookies. What did George's Spaghetti House in Toronto reopen as in 1956? Folk Club, Bandstand Club, or Jazz Club? Jazz Club. What type of dance was a 1950s poodle skirt worn for? Swing, jive, or square? Swing. What percentage of US women participated in the workforce in the 1950s? 9, 19, or 29%? 29%. What type of medical condition was chlorpromazine first synthesized for in 1950? Hypertension, psychosis, or diabetes? Psychosis. Who wrote the 1959 Gothic horror novel The Haunting of Hill House? Ursula K. Le Guin, Shirley Jackson, or Octavia E. Butler? Shirley Jackson. What did mountaineer Edmund Hillary work as when he summited Mount Everest in 1953? Equestrian, vintner, or beekeeper? Beekeeper. Which perfume was released by Maurer and Wertz in 1959? Tobacco, Nonchalance, or Gravity? Tobacco. How many of the Porsche 550 were produced between 1953 to 1956? 90, 325, or 550? 90. Which company introduced the snack food singles in 1950? Barilla, Kraft, or Ronzoni? Kraft. Which country was Liaquat Ali Khan serving as the first prime minister of when he was assassinated on October 16, 1951? Nepal, Pakistan, or India? Pakistan. Which television sitcom beginning in 1957 starred Betty White and Bill Williams? Date with the Angels, The Jack Benny Program, or Life with Elizabeth? Date with the Angels. Where did Mother Teresa open the Home for Dying Destitutes in 1952? Mumbai, Jaipur, or Calcutta? Calcutta. Question 40. What political process did first Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Chairman Nikita Khrushchev, begin when he came to office in 1953? De-Stalinization, deculkification, or decommunization? De-Stalinization. What 1953 novel was the 1954 Broadway musical The Pajama Game adapted from? The Pajama Game, 7.5 Cents, or Know Your Worth? 7.5 cents. Where in the US was Mr. Softee founded in 1956? Philadelphia, Newark, or Cape Cod? Philadelphia. For which vaccine was Max Thaler awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1951? Yellow fever, polio, or tuberculosis? Yellow fever. Which is not a film released in 1954? Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Seven Samurai, or 7 Pounds? £7. What was the zenith of the golden age of medicine in 1955? Open heart surgery, kidney transplant, or polio vaccine? Polio vaccine. What beverage did the Kiss of Lemon, Kiss of Lime trademark of 1959 refer to? 7-Up, B1, or Bubble Up? Bubble Up. What were the first names of the 1950s comedy duo Nichols and May? Matt and Esther, Mike and Elaine, or Miles and Elizabeth? Mike and Elaine. In which U.S. state was actor and model Andie MacDowell born on April 21st, 1958? Texas, South Carolina, or Kentucky? South Carolina. What did the GI Bill that expired in 1956 support? Readjustment in civilian life, lifelong medical insurance, or discount mortgages? Readjustment in civilian life. What did the 22nd Amendment on February 27, 1951 ratify? U.S. presidents must hold a high school diploma, U.S. presidents became officially limited to 2 terms, or U.S. presidents required to be legally wed to a partner. U.S. presidents became officially limited to 2 terms. How many of the 7 NFL championships they played in the 1950s did the Cleveland Browns win? 3, 4, or 5? 3. What instrument did Bobby Keys play when his career began at age 15 in the late 1950s? Saxophone, keyboard, or banjo? Saxophone. What style of architecture was the Caribbean Motel built in 1957 in Wildwood Crest, New Jersey? Doo-wop, brutalist, or tiki? Doo-wop. What color lipstick was most popular in the 1950s? Pink, red, or burgundy? Red. How long did Sputnik 1 spend in orbit before falling to Earth and burning up on January 4th, 1958? 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months? 3 months. Immigrants of what culture are focused on in the 1959 novel Brown Girl, Brownstones? Barbadian, Sri Lankan, or almond? Barbadian. In what Australian state were the Black Sunday bushfires of 1955? Tasmania, Victoria, or South Australia? South Australia. Where was the Build Lily fashion doll launched on August 12, 1955? West Germany, Denmark, or Portugal? West Germany. For which U.S. car brand did Virgil Exner design the forward look debuted in 1955? Chrysler, Cadillac, or Chevrolet? Chrysler. Question 60. What did the 1950s DA hairstyle stand for? Dreamy Adonis, Drift Arbor, or Duck's Ass? Duck's Ass. Which Kellogg's cereal was not launched in the 50s? Crunchy Nut Corn Flakes, Special K, or Kellogg's Frosties? Crunchy Nut Corn Flakes. Which country was President González Videla the leader of when he visited the White House in 1950? Chile, Spain, or the Philippines? Chile. What technology was used before 1956 to record television broadcasts? Radio waves, kinescopes, or projectors? Kinescopes. Which was not one of the world's wealthiest countries in the 1950s? Japan, Switzerland, or Canada? Japan. What did Pope Pius define the year 1950 as? The Holy Year, Unity Year, or Harmony Year? Holy Year. Where in the U.S. was the 1955 musical comedy Damn Yankees set? New York City, Washington, D.C., or Chicago? Washington, D.C. What was the original Trader Joe's started as a competitor against in 1958? Walmart, Ralph's, or 7-Eleven? (7-Eleven). For which writing form was Salvatore Quasimodo awarded the 1959 Nobel Prize in Literature? Journalism, poetry, or fiction? Poetry. Which U.S. fast food chain opened in the UK in 1954? KFC, Chicken Licken, or Wimpy? Wimpy. Question 70. What was the 1958 film No Time to Die titled in the U.S.? All Quiet on the Western Front, James Bond, or Tank Force? Tank Force. What did the 1953 armistice that ended the Korean War designate? No side is victor, political division in perpetuity, or rightful ownership on latitudinal Korea? No side as victor. Which comedian was not a lead feature on Your Show of Shows from 1950 to 1954? Sid Caesar, Gene Wilder, or Imogen Coca? Gene Wilder. In which country was Bruce Willis born on March 19, 1955? The UK, West Germany, or Canada? West Germany. Which hair care and personal products brand was founded in 1959? Vaseline, Pantene, or Conair? Conair. Which U.S. city did not bid to host the 1956 Summer Olympic Games? Los Angeles, Detroit, or Atlanta? Atlanta. Which singer's autobiography, Lady Sings the Blues, was released in 1956? Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, or Ella Fitzgerald? Billie Holiday. Use of which material influenced 1950s Googie architecture? Tin, lycra, or plastic? Plastic. Which company released Diet Right Cola in 1958? Royal Crown Cola, Coca-Cola, or Pepsi-Cola? Royal Crown Cola. Which shoe company was founded in Abington, Massachusetts in 1952? Fry, Sorel, or Timberland? Timberland. Question 80. Where was the beauty brand Clarins founded in 1954? Montreal, New Orleans, or Paris? Paris. Which bird was found not to be extinct in 1951 with the discovery of a nesting pair? Bermuda petrel, Bermuda albatross, or the Bermuda sea eagle? Bermuda petrel. Which film was screenwriter Joseph L. Mankiewicz not credited for in the 1950s? Julius Caesar, The Quiet American, or Guys and Dolls? Julius Caesar. What was the model number of the first plain paper copier introduced in 1959? Xerox 914, Xerox 1, or Xerox 14? Xerox 914. In which part of Boston did the Great Brinks robbery happen on January 17, 1950? South End, West End, or North End? North End. What color were the first Chevrolet Corvettes released for the 1953 model year? White, red, or blue? White. What flavor were the Hot Tamales candy when they launched in 1950? Musk, bubblegum, or cinnamon? Cinnamon. Which Vietnamese president visited the U.S. in 1957? Ho Chi Minh, Ngo Dinh Diem, or Thuc Quang? Ngo Dinh Diem. Which was not a common critical phrase for television in the 1950s? Boob tube, cultural wasteland, or idiot box? Idiot box. Who became the second Secretary General of the United Nations on April 10, 1953? Dag Hammarskjöld, U Thant, or Trygve Lie? Dag Hammarskjöld? In which U.S. state was the Shippingport Atomic Power Station opened in 1958? Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Michigan? Pennsylvania. In what historical period was the 1954 musical film Carmen Jones set? World War I, World War II, or the Korean War? World War II. What did Danny's Donuts change their name to in 1959? Molly's, Denny's, or Larry's? Denny's. Who was awarded the 1956 Pulitzer Prize in Poetry for poems North and South? Anne Sexton, Elizabeth Bishop, or Sylvia Plath? Elizabeth Bishop. What deficiency was the cause of the common 1950s disease pellagra? Vitamin D, vitamin B3, or vitamin K? Vitamin B3. What word was added to the official name of Sun Tang Red Cream Soda in 1959? Bright, big, or bowler? Big. What led to the radioactive contamination from the Rocky Flats plant in 1957? Fire, flood, or sabotage? Fire. Which brand of shoes was founded in Rockford, Michigan in 1958? Redbacks, Hush Puppies, or Crocs? Hush Puppies. Who starred with Grace Kelly in the 1955 thriller film To Catch a Thief? Cary Grant, Gregory Peck, or Clark Gable? Cary Grant. What product inspired the opening of the first IHOP in 1958? Maple syrup, bacon syrup, or coconut syrup? Coconut syrup. Last question. What U.S. natural disaster is called the 1953 Sarnia? Hurricane, tornado, or tsunami? A tornado. And let's move on to our bonus question. What domestic animal did the USSR send into space in 1950? Let us know the answer in the comments and how well you did. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.